Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on the 6th day of March here. Got a great show with you for tonight. Looks like the Giants are starting the process of moving on from Daniel Jones. I'll talk about one of the favorites that they possibly may draft. Also, you got to think about possibilities of things not working out and overreaching for a player like they done before. So get into that a little bit. Celtics look like they have the same problems they did last year, even though the fact I know they got the best record and everything. Their core problems seem to be the same. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. The Buffalo Bills practically cut their entire secondary today, clearing up some cap space there. We have a few comments, and they brought in Mitch Trubisky, brought him back as a backup to Josh Allen. Also, Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's recruiting Bill Belichick to do the Manning cast. A pretty interesting story out of The Athletic on that and more. Stand by. Let's take our first and only break. Hit the ground running here on Sports Scope. I'll be back here in 49 seconds. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program. All righty then. Now I'm back here live on All Links. So, had the Celtics there in a parlay last night. Donovan Mitchell out for the Cavs. Celtics, what were they riding, a 10-game winning streak? Blew out Golden State on Sunday. Caught Golden State off of a long layoff or off of a long road trip. Blew them out Sunday. You know, and I'm watching that game. Into the fourth quarter, 22 points, down to 20 with like nine minutes to go. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you can start to feel a little bit of the energy level come up from the crowd. Cavs start to go on a run. And the Celtics continue to do what that has hurt them in the playoffs, is continue to shoot threes and fadeaway jump shots, even when they're not falling. Brick after brick after brick after brick. And this coach here, who's still very young, with 34, 35 years old, not calling a timeout. And at Cleveland, this other guy, Wade, it wasn't Dwayne Wade, some guy I've never heard of before, just getting right into the middle of the lane and scoring on them. And I'm thinking, okay, Porzingis is there. Where's his defensive presence at? Why aren't they going down low to Kristaps Porzingis? Isn't that the whole reason for them to bring in Kristaps Porzingis and to move off of Marcus Smart, bring in a Drew Holiday there? And I'm thinking, okay, the coach has got to see this coming in. Let's go ahead and get a higher percentage shot. Let's stop the one-on-one basketball here. Tatum or whatever, go down and shoot a fadeaway. The timeout never happened, you know, until it got too late and they're down in crunch time. Not so concerned about the failed challenge call or whatever, or the overturned foul call. Should have never got to that point. Then without Donovan Mitchell. And I mentioned this because go back to earlier last month, back in February, they're playing the Lakers at home. without Anthony Davis and LeBron James, okay, should have been a blowout game. They messed around and lost that game. Never really showed any injury or any energy, no pride. So I wanted to make sure that my eyes were not deceiving me with this Celtics team. Is it what I'm seeing? So I went back and looked up, all right, how many times what do they rank in free throw attempts in the NBA? And of course, 21st in the NBA. 21st in the NBA. Now, I noticed that you get teams like Denver's 28, but the Joker, watching him here recently, and I know they lost last night, but they're in their little winning streak. When they're against a favorable opponent that they know they're probably going to run into in the playoffs, Joker will get that ball inside. You know, if Murray's not hitting from outside off that little two-man screen game, or Michael Porter Jr., who loves to shoot that corner shot there, that's not Joker just take it to the rim. Or he'll dish it off and get somebody else a in-the-paint type of easy layup, or something at the rim that will be able to cause a foul. And you get none of that from Boston. You know, you're getting none of that from Boston. 21st in the league in free throw attempts. They're a jump shooting team. You just cannot be a air quote jump shooting team and win championships. You know, I understand the greatness of a Golden State team that is really, you know, defeated that narrative. But also remember the 2002 Sacramento King team that really depended on that shot. And just simply, Golden State can get the ball to the rim when needed, even with a Steph Curry, a Draymond, cutters inside. You know, it's a lot of stuff. Moody, Bogut, those guys tipping the ball in. Those are the glamour shots you don't see. The non-glamour shots you don't see on SportsCenter that I would see them get, and the ball moving inside the paint. That's still what you're not seeing with Boston, you know. And of course, just like I thought, they're the number one team in 3-point attempts per game. And the problem with that is that they don't get away from it. They don't get away from it. So you saw that earlier, that last month with the Lakers. You saw it last night against Cleveland, a team they'll probably see in the playoffs, or the good chance they will see, is you got to have an inside game. And it just seems like they lack that. They lack a sense of urgency. They lack a sense of grit. Best record in the league. We've seen this last year, the year before that. Blowout wins. We've seen this last year, year before that. And we also seen blown leads where they're a team they probably should just knock out in 4 or 5 games, end up going 7 games and squeaking by a win, Miami, or just flat out losing it like last year, Miami, who made the finals. You know, that the truth of the matter is they need a real coach to get in their rear ends and tell them to get to do them for them to play up to their level of talent, to play up to your competition, to play up to your level of talent. This window's not going to be open up forever, you know. And I'm seriously considering just picking Denver to win it again. You know, I picked Denver to play them in the finals, them to beat Denver because of the Porzingis. But Porzingis is there, and he's playing away from the basket. What's the sense in bringing this guy in there for? You know? So they've got to figure that out. They got to run a pick and roll with Porzingis between either Jaylen Brown or whatever the other guy's name is, Jason Tatum there, or they're not going to win. They're not going to be. They're going to be one of those teams that had a great season every year. They never amount to anything, you know. Never actually win anything. Utah Jazz of the mid '90s, a Knicks team of the early '90s, a Pacers team of the 90s as well. It starts with that coach. Right now, if I had to pick it today, if the playoffs started today, yeah, they're going to get the 1 seed. I don't know if they would win it. I don't know if a healthy surgeon, I know that like an Achilles injury that they're going to be careful with from Milwaukee. I don't know if a healthy surgeon Bucks team might not beat them at this point, the way they're playing right now. These lapses or the same lapses they had last year. I understand they got a good record and all that. That's something they've got to correct. And you that was what I thought, that a guy like a Sam Cassell would get into him and say, hey, listen, man, Tatum, stop taking 1-on-3, pass the ball, set up some high pick and roll, get the ball to the rim. That 3 ball's not falling. We lead the league in 3-point attempts, okay? Some nights that thing's not going to fall. It's not going to fall every night in the playoffs. Check out the history of the game. You've got to have some bedside game here. And a lot of that is communication. So they remain to be seen, but it looks like as of today, they have not fixed the problems that is really hurt them the last 2 years in the NBA playoffs, and of course, ultimately the finals last year or year before last, when they lost to a Golden State team that they probably should have beat. Okay. Oh man, a lot of talk here. Yesterday talked about Saquon Barkley. I was totally right about that. I said this a couple years ago. I thought they should have moved on for both of them players. I thought Barkley was overdrafted. Proven right. Dave Gettleman screwed that thing all the way up. Also said Daniel Jones, 6th pick the next year after that. Never in love with this guy, tripping over his own feet, hurt all the time, not just a consistent passer of the football. We know he's coming off of a Achilles or an ACL injury. Rich Eisen, I think this was yesterday. Listen to Rich Eisen talk about this. What he had heard on the Rich Eisen show, he mentions this. What he had heard about Daniel Jones and his future with the New York Giants. Listen up. If I can find it in here. Here we go.
The Giants are absolutely done with Daniel Jones. Wow. Absolutely done. Done. Might have to play him this year. Whoa. But that ain't it. And they feel that ain't it. The words I heard at the combine multiple times, 2 words were buyer's remorse.
Yeah. Now, of course, I think he played 6 games last year, tore his ACL. Daniel Jones here. And listen, I mean, his cap number's out of this world. There's little to zero. I mean, negative 0.0000 chance that they can get anybody to take on his contract this year. Okay. Jones, they'll have an out next year. They'll have an out on Jones next year, but they're not going to be able to get anything this year for Daniel Jones. I'm looking for his cap numbers here. Okay. Guys, cap hits this year is going to be 47 million, Giant fans. And the dead cap will be 69. They couldn't cut him if they tried. That would be insane in the membrane. Now his dead cap next year will be 22 million. Probably move off of him during that time or another. So now, mind you, he was the 6th pick overall. There's been a buzz about a particular quarterback here out of Michigan. And my whole point is, I know they want to move on. I would like for them to move on if I'm a Giants fan, okay. But you don't want to get a Jake Locker. You don't want to get a Christian Ponder. For God's sake, you don't want to get another Daniel Jones. What I mean by that is quarterbacks that are picked around the 10th, around in the 10, 12 range, somewhere around that 6 to 10 range, when a few quarterbacks have already been taken and they're a reach, and you're taking a quarterback just to take a quarterback and not the best available player, and then you're setting yourself back again a few more years when you probably could have got a much better player to put in place of that quarterback, like they did with Daniel Jones. Now, that was Gettleman's guy. Also, Barkley was Gettleman was a total disaster there and a failure as a general manager. I'm glad people are starting to see my way. Yeah, he was good with Carolina, but he was not good with the Giants, and it proves to be seen. Now, that being said, Christian McCaffrey, J.J. McCaffrey, what I say, Christian McCaffrey, J.J. McCaffrey from Michigan, he was a 5-star guy out of high school. He has rose up on draft boards, okay? Charles Davis with the NFL Network. I really respect Charles Davis, former University of Tennessee player. He's called a lot of games over here. He's worked with the NFL a number of years. He actually has J.J. McCarthy going to the Giants, even if this player's got to sit behind Jones, which is likely going to happen this year. Could be a good play there. Remember, Mahomes sit behind a player. Okay, so let's. Mark Schlereth explains this because McCarthy didn't throw a lot in college. Okay, big offensive line, two running backs, Edwards, and of course Blake Corum here, who out bench pressed some offensive linemen in workouts here. Let's listen to Mark Schlereth on the Colin Cowherd show explain why this guy's draft stock, who could be a giant come April, has skyrocketed. It's a long cut. I'm going to play a few seconds and then I'll stop and I'll comment, but listen up.
Well, but he's one of one when it comes to pre-snap recognition and an NFL-style pre-snap offense. So you have to understand that college football has gotten to the point where it's very static formationally, right? They're going to get you in spread 3x1, 3x2 empty, whatever the case may be. And you're going to basically not have progression throws, but you're going to pick your number one target, and you're going to say, that's the guy I want to throw it to. He's my best matchup. And
so he's talking about, can you see a guy like a Brian DeBall working with the J.J. McCaffrey here and giving him some stuff, some advance, a couple of audibles here, and saying, listen, man, whatever the defense does while you're going through your shifts and stuff, you have the full autonomy to call an audible, switch to protection, and go to player X or your hot route or whatever, and he's going to be open. This should be perfect for this particular defense here, instead of having to start from scratch with the Jalen Daniels or somebody like that, a little bit more of a raw player per se, and having to dumb things down here. You'd be put in position to win a little bit quicker here. So this guy's got this real high football IQ, essentially. More from Mark Schlereth, former Denver Bronco, Washington Redskin, then Redskin. This guy's won 3 Super Bowls. Pretty smart guy. Works out of Denver with the radio, sports talk radio up in Denver area. This is more from Mark Schlereth.
And you're going to throw it to that guy. And so there's no real progression. I talked to Bill Lazor, who's with the Houston Texans, about quarterbacks and picking quarterbacks. And he said something very poignant to me. It's not about who the best college quarterback is. It's about who's the best college quarterback with the most transferable skills. So J.J. McCarthy is probably the only guy that runs an NFL pro-style offense at the line of scrimmage, meaning he's got different personnel groupings. He's calling plays. He's not just looking at the sideline going, okay, what do those cards say? Oh, it's barn, chicken, rooster. Let's go. Barn, chicken, rooster on 2. That's not what they're doing in Michigan. It's a pro-style, pre-snap. You're motioning. You're in charge of flexing tight ends and motioning them across the formation and using that information pre-snap
to understand where you want to go with the football. This is why, in my mind, he's climbing up draft boards, because he's the only guy that's responsible for the line of scrimmage. And you got to think about how it works in the NFL. Your ability to call a huddle and your ability to make that call. So you may get into, hey, we're going to fly to trips right, nasty, H left, outside, two jet branch, Buffalo, can that with 18 handoffs strong. And to be able to spit all that stuff out and to know exactly what that is, and then to be able to change that formation and fly.
Who does that sound like? You know, that sounds a little bit like a Brock Purdy type of player, you know? Being able to spit all that information, the ball would really like to work with a guy like a McCarthy here. Got to see how he works out. I understand. Again, I know he didn't throw that much in college, but I don't think that teams are dumb enough to just pick a player just because he's on a championship team. Okay. There was a guy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there was another quarterback that played with Tim Tebow. Okay. Threw a pretty good ball there, but had somewhat of a slow release. Now, we know what Tebow could do. He's just a big, powerful runner, good leader and everything, but he was really bad at it. But this player didn't even get drafted. Some of these players that are on these championship teams, like Ken Dorsey, the former offensive coordinator, for example, for the Buffalo Bills. Well, when he was in college at Miami on that great stacked 2001 Miami Hurricane, 2002 Miami Hurricane team, went 2 national championships, won one, almost beat Ohio State team. I thought maybe he could be a really high draft pick. I think he was like a 7th round pick, though. Didn't quite have the release here. So from that perspective, you think, okay, well, maybe the scouts do know what they're talking about here. They're going to give him go through a workout with him. I'm sure he's going to have his pro day, see if he can make certain throws. You already know he's got the acumen to do it. Bringing him in, letting him sit behind a Daniel Jones for a year, or just let him battle it out and count per se. Like, again, with that $69 million dead cap fee, with this cap hit, with what they owe Daniel Jones here, they're probably just keep him. Keep Jones, let him take his time coming back from that ACL injury, and just work it out that way. If you're a Giants fan, you look at it and you say, okay, we've got 2 second-round picks here. We've got this. What did they pick? I think they picked 5th, but I'm not sure. I want to make sure. It's either 5th or 6th. They've already got their left tackle. Okay, the Giants do. And I know they've got 2 second rounds. I don't know if they got a 3rd round, but we're going to have to find out here going on. But they do need players. Okay. Yeah. No, that's the Bills. We'll talk about them here in a little bit. Let's see. I got everybody's draft picks here. Broncos and everything else. But anyways, so you've got your 2 second-round picks. You've got your top 10 pick here for the Giants here. So, yeah, could you possibly take one of these players? Okay, now Pro Football Focus has McCaffrey as an 84.5 career grades against Power 5 competition versus the highest grade is a Caleb Williams at 92.3. Drake May 91.9. Even Jalen Daniels and even Bo Nix has a higher rating against Power 5 competition. But that being said, it's all about what the players want to do, what the coaches want to do, and what type of system you got in around him that will make sense. So, anyways, yeah. So, with those 2 second-round picks, they would be able to pick up something there and build around him. I wouldn't go with the receiver with that top. I understand a Brock Bowers may be tempting for the Giants here. Could have swore I had all their draft picks, but I guess I missed them here. Oh, well. Is that it? No, I took down Denver's, but I didn't take the Giants picks here. So it was just, I thought it was a mistake in what they did. The Giants are just a team. It was almost a curse to get to the playoffs and win a game last year, just to be beat. I guess just to be destroyed the next week by the Giants there, or by the they got the 6th pick. They're just ahead of Tennessee. Ironically, that was the same pick they had back in 18, or that was the same pick they had back in 2019 where they took Daniel Jones. So if you draft this quarterback at that position, very good chance that Drake May, Caleb Williams, and of course Jalen Daniels are going to be off the board here. History says this could be a bad pick. Now, that being said, back in 2018, Baker Mayfield was taken 1st overall. Josh Allen later. Lamar Jackson wasn't taken until the 32nd pick, right at the very end of the 1st round. The Ravens traded back in and got him. So just because it's not the first guy off the board, and then remember Sam Darnold drafted in there too at that I want to say in 18 as well. Well, that was so that was other quarterbacks to Sam Darnold, obviously. Lamar turns out to be better than Sam Darnold. He was better than Baker Mayfield. So you're really going to have to listen to your scouts here. All right. Other thoughts? Maybe you get a Russell Wilson with that. You get him for that $1 million that he may come up there. If I'm Wilson, I probably wouldn't sign with the Giants. Got too many holes elsewhere. Kirk Cousins may be going to Atlanta. I may talk about that tomorrow in a little bit more depth there. So that's an interesting storyline to follow. But if I'm the Giants, you got to be careful here. I did make some other notes here that Al Borges, who I've had on this program, covers the Michigan games at nauseum. Last year, or the year before last, or this time last year, he said he really thought Stroud was the best quarterback in this particular draft. And, of course, that was last year. Now it looks like Stroud was definitely the best quarterback in the draft. He's very high. He said as far as skill, ability to throw the ball, make all the big throws, he said he was very high on J.J. McCaffrey as well, McCartney. Borges don't pull back, okay? He was an offensive coordinator at Michigan years ago. He didn't pull back when Denard Robertson said he was a dud, didn't do enough film work. So he's not one of these guys that's just going to speak well of a quarterback just because that he coached him. He could tell you the weaknesses and everything. A lot of you probably still think about now, of course, obviously a Michael Penix. You've got 2 second-round picks there with this this Giants team. They've got those 2 second-round picks. Could you take a Brock Bowers at number 6? That's pretty much one of the safest picks out there. If Rome Odunze's out there at 6, you don't need any other line play. You've got an edge rusher there already. Would you take a Rome Odunze from Washington at 6? Okay, and then turn around and take a Michael Penix with that first, second round pick. I want to say it's at 38, 39 overall. And so Michael Penix, and let him sit behind a Daniel Jones for a year. You either trade or cut Jones. It's going to be a $22 million cap hit if they cut him next year. So judging by what Rich Eisen said, what I thought that there's probably going to do anyways, I would possibly look at the Michael Penix angle, have him in, let him take a physical, trying to get a feel for what anybody else is going to do in the first round. Or you could simply trade that pick down. Trade that pick down if you're not satisfied. Take the best player available at 15 or whatever, or just trade it down and take Penix midway through the first round. And then it wouldn't look like such a reach. You know, Penix is falling because of his injury history. But Duvall's a pretty good play designer. I like Penix. I think he can make big NFL throws. I like him better than McCarthy. But again, you got that injury history. That scares general managers. Could possibly Duvall and Sheehan be on the hot seat after next year? Possibly, because they fell off so much last year from the year before, where they overachieved and made the playoffs there. So something to keep an eye on here. But before I draft that player, as much as I said about J.J. McCarthy, make sure that you know for a fact that this guy is going to be good enough. Dot your I's and cross your T's, because you don't want to make that same mistake with the 6th pick overall in 2024 that you made in 2019 with the Daniel Jones. Okay? Alrighty then. Speaking of cutting fat off the bone, folks, the Buffalo Bills cut their practically their whole secondary. You know, that is not much of an exaggeration today. We already know they're going to cut Micah Hyde today. Jordan Poyer, they're both starting safeties. They've had to cut them. We saw this coming. If you pay that big money here, to Josh Allen and you don't win that Super Bowl, well, this is what you got to do. You know, you got to start cutting some players here. They cut their center, Mitch Morse, Tre'Davious White, year before last, coming off of what he saw towards Achilles, got hurt again last year. White was $10 million by cutting Tre'Davious White here. Jordan Poyer, Deontay Hardy, who they signed safety, Sarah Neal, and Naheem Hines for $500,000. They extended offensive tackle Deion Dawkins for 7.1 extended. They restructured Dawson Knox and Rasheed Douglas at corner. Remember, they made the trade for Douglas there, which turned out to be a really good pickup there from Green Bay. But again, you've got two safeties out. You've got they did not cut Von Miller. They restructured Von Miller. I thought they would cut Von Miller, honestly, but that now $19 million over the cap. Of course, when I wasn't looking for the Giants, and I found out, yeah, they have those 2 second-round picks. So the Giants may try to move up, going back to that story. But all that being said, I was hoping they could do something with Stephon Diggs. The reason why they can't do nothing with Stephon Diggs, his cap hit's $27 million, $31 million dead cap hit. He's 32 years old and he's got an attitude problem. You might be able to get a sucker to take him on. Maybe somebody in the NFC. Again, with teams, this helps teams with wide receivers they want to move off of. Okay, we already know Mike Evans is re-signed. Okay, Michael Pittman, who I thought would definitely become a free agent, they franchised him with the Colts. I thought they would probably move off Pittman because I think he's going to ask for a lot, but no, they franchise. They're going to get a deal done with Indianapolis. Okay, so that's two players that I thought for sure that would be available because Evans is over 30, but they signed him to a 2-year extension. A Diggs-like player with the issues he's had with Sean McDermott and, of course, Josh Allen. You would think they would try to move off him with the public criticisms that he's had of this team. But, Bills, it's cold up there. It snows a lot. They're somewhat like Green Bay in a sense. It's just very difficult to get a free agent to move up to Buffalo, New York. So you got overpaid. You overpaid for Von Miller. They overpaid for Stephon Diggs. Okay. They traded for him. Remember, they didn't get him out of free. They traded for this guy. And of course, with that pick, once they traded him and from Minnesota ends up getting Justin Jefferson out of it with all the money he's made. So you would like to see him move on. But they would actually lose money if they cut him. If they cut Diggs, they would lose $4 million. Okay, because his dead cap is 31, his cap hit's 27. If you could find a sucker somewhere to take him off of you, maybe if somebody gets hurt in camp or something of that nature, maybe, but that would be too late. Then you can't do nothing around him. Excuse me. Tired yesterday. Yawning on the air, listening to the playback here. But, that being said, listen, if they play their cards right, they might be able to get these players filled in free agency. Xavier Howard's out there, former Miami Dolphin. Jamal Adams, there's your safety. There's your corner. You could possibly get these guys in for the right price here. With Buff, if they would have to do some more maneuvering there with Buffalo. Listen, if you want anything to happen as far as player-wise, you can massage the cap enough to make it happen. Look at what the Saints have did. They've been massively over the cap for the past 3 years. Now, this is the third year. They've been over the cap for $100 million a couple of years ago. And Mickey, I think his name, Mickey Loomis or whatever, the general manager, he's found ways to do this. But they could go out and get a Xavier Howard, who was a cap hit for Miami. He knows the division really well. Give him as much guaranteed money as you possibly can and go out and get a Jamal Adams, who is not the safety he used to be, but they might be able to get a guy like that for a decent price here. Okay. Just 28 years old. Get those guys to go to a potential championship team, and maybe try to get somebody to deal you a third-round pick for Stephon Diggs, and take him off of you. You still have to probably split some of that salary here for the Buffalo Bills. That being said, if these moves don't work out, I could see Sean McDermott being the fall guy here. I know that they got their running game back going a little better this past year than they did. Who was it? Joe Brady. Once he took over, they fired Ken Dorsey and played pretty well against a team that eventually won the Super Bowl. But they had a lot of players hurt because a lot of these players, Poyer and Micah Hyde and White, they've all been hurt. That's why that Hamlin, what's his name? The guy that had the heart attack on the field. That's why he was even out there, because Hyde was hurt the year before last. But so I'm not ready to rule him out completely because of the high level that Allen's played. But this is just more of a reason to think maybe that their window has closed. That being said, you can replace safeties. Safeties and cornerbacks, linebackers can be replaced. It's not the end of the world. As you can see, they restructured Von Miller and brought him back in there. If they hit it right on their draft picks, they should be okay. But they're not a lock. They're not going to be number one or number two to win the Super Bowl next year. I would probably lean towards a team that's got a lot of money, actually, a Cincinnati Bengals, somebody like that. I don't, and plus, even with their cap issues that are flaring up for the Chargers, I would maybe think for them to possibly get to the Super Bowl next year. Not sure they're going to be able to do it with Sean McDermott there in Buffalo. So, yeah, pretty much cleaning house there, folks. Cleaning house. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Okay, Peyton Manning. As you know, Bill Belichick, switching gears here, Bill Belichick didn't get a job, didn't take a consulting role. I thought maybe that the 49ers here would would take a chance with and try to go after him as a coordinator. And that never did work. I think they went with Brandon Staley or somebody. I didn't really catch up with that and see what the deal was. But Andrew Marchand, who used to write for the New York Post here, Andrew Marchand used to write for the New York Post. Now he writes for the Athletic, which is good because I got the Athletic. I subscribed to it for this program. And he's got an interesting story came out today. He said Peyton Manning's pursuing Bill Belichick in effort to sign the longtime Patriots head coach with Omaha Productions. So he produces that on his own show. I didn't know he did that, but he does. The Manning Cast. Belichick famously teamed with Brady to be a nemesis to Manning, the Hall of Fame Colts quarterback, for a span of 15 years. I didn't really realize it was that long. Belichick famously teamed with him 15 years in hopes to bring Belichick onto his company in partnership with him. And big-name athletes like David Ortiz, Sue Bird, and, of course, Eli Manning. If Manning were to sign Belichick, the idea of teaming with ESPN to create Belichick and Nick Saban, Manning. See, that being said, okay, Nick Saban and Bill Belichick own the Manning Cast, folks. Think about that for a second. I've always thought that was a little corny. The Manning Cast on Monday night, and I know they don't do every Monday night game. Monday night used to be terrible with ESPN. Then they brought in Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and I find myself on Monday when I'm usually burned out from football, watching that game. But I would listen to the clips from the Manning Cast the next day, or I would see them on the X app or whatever, what's known as the X app now. It's way better than I thought it would be. Having a guy like a Marshawn Lynch on there, the back and forth with the brother on there, kind of a format like we have, except it's on TV here sometimes, and they're watching the game and they're doing an interview at the same time. It actually works. I didn't think the concept will work. That being said, if you had a Bill Belichick on there analyzing a game on a Manning Cast with the great Peyton Manning, and them probably going back and saying, okay, what were you thinking back in 2003 when you stopped me on third down? This is what I was thinking. Well, Bill, I was trying to get you on this side right here. And Bill's like, yeah, well, we've seen that play before. You so-and-so cut it off, got third down. I would have to record that. Who records a back and forth just because you got so much respect for the back and forth to two people on there? I mean, that would be me. That would be me. I mean, and I used to have Sirius XM about 10, 12 years ago, and I was listening to the NFL XM Sirius XM station in my car then because it was free. It was part of the package when I bought the car. I think I had like a year free XM radio. And, I was just a Belichick, and I never heard him in that form before. He was breaking down the Cowboys. They had to play the Cowboys that week. And he was breaking down the difficulties and DeMarcus Ware, how to block a guy like that. And I want to say he was talking to, then this was, like I said, 12 years ago, maybe 13 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. John Madden, they were breaking this down, talking about the Cowboys defense. Of course, they smoked them like a cigar, you know. Yeah, I think it was more like 15 years ago, but 15, 16 years ago. And you heard Belichick in a different light. He wasn't the guy that was very short with the media, that mumbled a lot, talked under his breath like he'd just been working on something all day and didn't feel like talking to anybody. So I think it would work. Something like this. I think that it'll work. Now, of course, we know that he was at game day last year during the Army-Navy game. I think he coached for Army or something. His dad coached or whatever for Army back in the day. And it was a good listen. I actually listened to everything he had to say. So, so this is somewhat of a bidding war, I would say, because Pat McAfee's trying to get McAfee has something who's also with the ESPN deal. He's got a deal there set up with Nick Saban. He's also trying to get a Bill Belichick. Belichick will be 72 next month, and he does want to come back here, and he definitely wants to come back to the league. So the networks are putting all that into consideration. But according to this article, Belichick has met with CBS and NBC executives, according to sources with direct knowledge. The get-together, CBS and NBC are both considering adding new analysts to their studios. Also, possibly recently retired Jason Kelce here. So, it's going to be interesting to see McAfee and Peyton Manning compete against each other to get Belichick on. Maybe he goes to both. I don't know. That shows come on at different times, and we'll see how this thing goes about. But I'm curious of what you would have to pay a guy like a Belichick. I don't know how much he would command because of his personality, but that he knows what he's talking about. I think it would pay some money. I had to give ESPN, ABC the credit. They finally started putting money into into Monday Night Football. I wanted to say, I think it was Jason Whitlock that reported this or said he heard this, that if they didn't pay more money and get higher quality, A-quality Monday Night Football people like Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, they're never going to get a Super Bowl. And, of course, we know what happened. We ended up paying Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who are probably the best right now, I would say. They're not my favorite all time. I mean, that would be Pat Summerall and John Madden. I still like Al Michaels, him and the former receiver there for Chris Collinsworth. I think they would have been good together as well. So, but all that's broken up here. So it's an interesting story. That's an interesting story to follow here. As far as the Bills, and like I said, the Bills, by the way, I mentioned, they signed Mitch Trubisky, brought him back here to work here. Interesting story to follow here. Going back to that story that I missed. So they full details on Von Miller reworked his contract, lower his number from 17 base to 1.5 million and $7 million signing bonus of an $8 billion base. I'm still surprised that they even did that with Von Miller, really using him more on third down than anything. Maybe he was dealing with another injury or something of that nature. So anyways, that's all I got for you all tonight. If you like the show, share the show. Next Wednesday, I'm going to try to bring back, I thought about bringing him in today, but didn't really cross my mind until later on, maybe a Keith Engel here from TGI Sports. This time next week, we will be into the big conference tournaments, the SEC, the I know the Big East, they always seem to start on like a Wednesday, and they play at the Madison Square Garden. That's going to be interesting. I know Tennessee's playing tonight in the SEC. They're trying to play to get one of those 1 seeds here. Last I checked, they were playing well against South Carolina. But Keith Fangle is an excellent basketball guy here. South Carolina's cutting it down. Now, I need them to get it down to 5 here. So I got them in a parlay here. Tennessee's beating them by 7 right now, number 4 team in the country. South Carolina beat them earlier this year. South Carolina 17 will be in the bubble as well. But, tune in next Wednesday. He will be Keith is an excellent college basketball guy, And as far as tomorrow's concerned, there's so many stories out there brewing in the NFL. I know Monday's legal tampering, but these days leading up to Monday's legal tampering day, of course, next Wednesday, 1 week from today, everybody's going to be signing. A lot of people's going to be signing. Some of your high dollar guys will go the first day. Some of them may be overpaid. Some of them may be home run hits. Then after that, you'll start to get more bargain plays there at free agency. But these days, leading up there, you're going to have players to be cut. I've already mentioned players like Xavier Howard. All those safeties there, those players will get picked up. Tre'Davious White will get picked up somewhere. Micah Hyde. They just won't get picked up for the amount of money that they were making. They'll get picked up. Xavier Howard, there may be a little bit of a bidding war for him. Former Miami Dolphin there. He was another cap hit. But as we lead up to the weekend, throughout to Monday, you're going to see more and more shocking players. I mentioned Shaq Barrett the other day, former Tampa Bay Buck. He was cut here. So interesting to see over the next 24 hours to the next 72. We're going to see more and more of that here. So if you all like the show, share the show. I'll be back tomorrow. Either way, talk about what's going on tonight. Same time, same place here on Sports Scope. Good night, everybody.